For this question, we need to find the systematic risk and non-systematic risk and the amount of risk diversified. So it's similar to the one I did in tutorial, so let's get started. So let's start with that formula again. Return is just sum beta times the market access return plus the residuals. So if you take the variance of both sides, left side is just variance of A because risk-free is risk-free, no variance, and this coefficient squared times sigma n squared plus sigma epsilon A squared. So we call this part the systematic part and this part the idiosyncratic or the unsystematic part. So from the first asset, we know sigma A, we know beta A from part A already, and we know sigma M, so we don't know sigma epsilon A, so we just set it up and solve this equation. So sigma A is just 0.2 squared minus 0.6 squared. Oh, that's actually not right. 0.2 squared minus 0.6 squared times 0.1 squared. So that's something, let me check. Sigma A is 0.0364, and the other one similarly is just 0.4 squared minus 3.2 squared, 0.1 squared, so 0.576. So for the whole portfolio, the formula is exactly the same, still the same. It's beta of the portfolio. Beta of the portfolio is just weighted average of the beta, so half beta A, half beta B, which is equal to half of this is 1.3. Okay, so remember, this is just the regular weighted square. You don't have, weighted average, not squared weighted average. So you square it afterwards. So you first compute weighted average and then you square it, times the 0.1 squared. That's the systematic part. Again, it's the same thing as before, and plus the idiosyncratic part is here. You have the half square. Remember, here you are calculating a variance. The variance is the weight squared times the actual sigma squared. You don't have square here because this is already square. So if you want square root, if this is the square, if you take the square root, then remember to square it. Otherwise, you don't. Plus this half squared, the other one. So remember, these are already squared. So these are here, and sigma epsilon B squared. So this whole thing is called the unsystematic part. So that's the risk of the portfolio and amount of risk diversified. So this risk is this minus the, so at the end of some calculation is 0.212. Oh, this thing squared. Okay. So the amount of risk diversified is just this risk minus the risk without diversification, which is just the weighted average of the individual risks. So half of A and half of B. So this is sigma A, not sigma A squared. And so the whole thing becomes 0.201 minus this 0.3, which is, without diversification minus with diversification, so they should be flipped. So the resulting thing is 0.099. This is the amount of risk diversified. So in the tutorial, I said that this thing is the same thing without dependence. So assuming independent, that's actually not exactly true. It's like that, but it's not true. If it's true, then we need to square them and then square root at the end. But according to the professor's definition, the risk without diversification is just just use the average weighted risk for individual assets. It's not actually independence, because independence implies the variance is the weighted stuff, but here is not the variance, it's just the risk, weighted risk. So remember, do not square anything here and then square root at the end, just take the weighted average of risk. So this is just weighted average of risk, not variance.